going to talk about now about the all natural environment on this life level. Then I want to think that the destruction of the all natural environment on this life level seems to be a good thing after all, because it will usher in a great awakening. Now, I just want to imagine this. If the earth were left in its pristine state, in its very pure state, like it was so many years, hundreds of years ago, I think that man will remain in a type of slumbered complacency. Man will be sleeping. Everything is fine. You plant food even on rocks, they grow. The food grows and all the like. And the waters are pure, running. Life is sweet. Nobody would. People's creative ideas will not even come forth, and people will not even want to think what they are doing here and the future of this universe, what is the purpose of life and all the like. So regarding taking the next step or having another view, I think the destruction of this all natural environment is aiding in that. And I think something good will be born out of the chaos, the destruction of this environment. And as it is said in certain circles, they say a certain amount of disruption and chaos is necessary for a shift in awareness. And the plebeians, the plebeians say this, that a disruption and chaos that we find all around is necessary because it is helping in the shift of awareness. So what I begin to ask is, are the wonderful worldwide educators rather retrogressive in their push for the preservation of the all natural environment on all levels of life, and especially on this level of life? Right?
No, it's not really a push. And at the beginning of your question there, you talked about the destruction of whatever, and that, I can see where you're coming from. Just going to have a little fun with it, and that is that, the world controllers can take that as a yes to where you may get a knock on your door to where they would possibly like to buy you off too, like they have so many others, because you're kind of for the destruction. But again, it's looked at two ways. So you have to look at, how people are saying this. Yes, there is a benefit to it. Okay, but we don't promote that. We're not promoting the destruction. What we promote is, the reality of a situation here. This is, the earth is like a schoolhouse. And does it make sense to, if you want to wake up the students because they're sleeping during their lessons, to light the schoolhouse on fire or do some bombs and blow up half the room? Does that make sense to get their attention? Well, it will get their attention. Okay, it's like, gee, why did the teacher do that? Why did they light the schoolhouse on fire? And as they're all standing outside as it's burning, well, I wanted to get your attention, says the teacher. Well, okay, well, you got our attention. Oh, now we don't need the schoolhouse. Okay, see, there's another position. Do we rebuild it? or all of a sudden realize we don't need the schoolhouse. So you can look at it from that position. So there's many ways to look at it, but all of creation is the schoolhouse. And so it doesn't have to lead to destruction, but certain individuals have decided that there will be destruction. So all the rest of us have to deal with it. So to get people's attention in any way, and what makes sense here, because things are dying, and these individuals, they're going to end up with the repercussions for lifetimes. So we're trying to show them how to do a shortcut. So, you know, any which way you look at it, there's a benefit, but there's also a downside. In creation, you have both sides of the coin. There's also the downside. So it's not just that from the ashes the phoenix rises, etc., or these old sayings. Well, it just depends upon the individual. You know, that sounds good, it looks good in the movies, but realistically, there's a lot more to it. And again, most people live with their cliches, the sound good stuff, their you know, their pumped up happiness and laughter and whatever, and kind of giggle it off and etc. But I see that sincerely it's what the individual does, what they do. So it's more than just words. And again, we have the systems here. We have Harry on stage and everybody else talking, and they're just words. What are they really doing? You know, what is the end result of their words? So when I was out there and I had my own business and I went on appointments and told people that, okay, I will build, you know, this project. Well, you know what? I wouldn't build it. That's what I did. I really, I completed what I said. And so is the world doing that? And so we're getting pretty speeches, and everything gets worse. It doesn't get better. It gets worse. They keep telling you it's going to get better. It ain't getting better. And they're not even, you know, most of the so-called controllers of the world, they're not interested in getting better. So they're deceiving people. So there are many sides to this, Charles. And so I see, you know, the boys see what's going on. They can't stop everybody from doing everything. They could, but they're not going to interfere, because what they also see is the agreement that's there. And this is the real wake up to where, you know, each individual has to decide to see, you know, how their agreements are with the simulator, and decide with their intent to recognize that, to discover the true reality. So yes, everything can become a benefit, but it can also become a huge tragedy for people for lifetimes. And it just depends. It's very subtle. That's the razor's edge. That's the real razor's edge of, you know, that subtle decision and being the risk taker. But, you know, the risk taker position is simply going for what really makes sense. It's not about divine words or spiritual this or that, or, you know, ancient knowledge and all these things. What makes sense? What really makes sense? So, yeah, we have a lot going on, Charles. It's a choice. So you got to pay attention. But, yeah, I'm not going to uphold the destruction because it's overdone. Okay, you know, in Mexico, a lot of the Mexicans, they burn off certain things. They burn off their trash. I would see it when I was down there on my surfing trips and whatever. They do certain things, and you know, even some of the forest areas or whatever, you know, a certain amount, fine, but you don't burn up the whole place. That becomes different, especially with lethal lasers and whatever. So again, things start to go to the extreme. You know, your parents can shake the finger, you know, shake their finger at you and say, "Oh, you're not to do that anymore." Okay, that's one thing. But when they bring out a baseball bat and start beating you and break your bones and everything, that's just like going too far. You know, everything has gone way too far. It's way off the Richter scale to where everything now, we have to deal with it. It's all poison and polluted. All poisoned. Everything is poison, and they keep promoting poison. So yes, to see the benefit of this, that's huge, but at the same time, you have to deal with it, so it's gone too far. So, you know, each one of us decides what we do every day, in dealing with it. So the new presentation is what it is. And words are not going to fix anything. It's about what each individual actually does more than just the words. So we'll see, Charles, how long things last here. And so again, I would say most people won't wake up no matter how bad it gets. They're going to hang on to what they've known. And in their minds, they're going to think, well, I had this experience, I had that, and all my memories. I have my memories. Again, this is what people hang on to. They hang on to their memories, and they simply deal with it. But yes, it is to their advantage to wake up because of it, because you got to deal with it. That's all there is to it. But I won't promote any of it in any way or say basically it's this or that. It's a good thing. No, it's not a good thing. It's a challenge. That's how I see it as. It's a challenge to recognize what's really going on in the simulator. There becomes the difference. So, and what others say, or the Palladians or whatever, there's physical astral, for the most part. It's like the old idea of, when you die, you're a good person, you go to heaven. So again, you go to the designated heaven, you'll be trapped there too. Those are traps too. They're not really traps, but they're restrictions. And we're referring to the real universes, which takes a recognition. Can't figure these things out. You got to recognize it, and you got to earn your way. So we're providing something that makes sense with all the nonsense that is going on. There you go, Charles.
Yeah, Duane, thank you for that answer. Yeah, I was watching a video on Yahoo, and it was showing the funeral funeral service of deceased President George Herbert Walker Bush, and how all the ex-presidents, the former presidents or living presidents of the United States, they were sitting in the front row, and Donald Trump came in and was with his wife and greeted courtesy to some few persons. They sat down. Then he couldn't engage in the lively talk that was going on with amongst the other presidents, and so many people were criticizing him for that he's estranged himself from the rest from the fold. And then came the service, the funeral service, and there was criticism that he did not recite the Apostles' Creed like all the other presidents were doing, and and then when I listened, to the Apostles' Creed, I just remember. I just thought about you. What would Duane say in this situation? Donald Trump did not recite the Apostles' Creed, but I don't know whether he did that out of disdain or out of some awareness of the fact that he shouldn't do it at all. Oh, was he just dumb or what? And then they were moving the casket to the final resting place, and I just thought how the priest or whoever was giving him the last blessings, and probably wishing that he should find a good place in heaven. God should provide, take him safely and provide for him in the other world, in heaven. In fact, by that mass. In fact, he was literally absorbed into heaven. Then I just thought about what Duane has written about uh, the phantom zone, where you find all the influential people of this world who have been making decisions, uh, controlling others, frustrated lives, and all the like, and kept people in the matrix through repression, restrictions, and limitations, and all the like, and how they are going to languish in the phantom zone. I just thought about George Herbert Walker Bush, how he was going straight to the phantom zone. So, what can you say about this, Duane?
That's a good guess, Charles. And so, yes, some people see it realistically on the real side, and everybody has their idea. And about what Trump is doing as the so-called president of the United States, that's all an act. Everything he does is an act. That's why he's so outlandish, simply because it's a setup. It's always a setup. There's always a setup for the next act, you see. So Trump is just being Trump. He's paid very well to do what he's doing. Everything is an act, what they're doing. The others pretend not to like him and whatever. They're all actors, just like in a movie. They're paid very well to do their roles. And it's a setup for the next act, which is 2000, the next elections, because whoever steps up is going to look really good compared to him. So what he's doing is he's setting up a thrust for people, to, it's just like a plane, speeding by, there's that thrust that kind of picks you up and pulls you along. And that's what he's creating. That's the whole idea, because people are waking up to the deception of what's going on. So they're constantly, creating new ways of marketing people to continually agree. And they know that people have doubts and et cetera, et cetera. And, just like the corporation with all the membership, they see what we're presenting here. And, they're on the fence, but they've got to decide, but they see it, you see. And so what they're doing is that they go into the next stage of their marketing ploy. And you watch to see what happens. So I'm not saying I'm right, but it's more than obvious, because everything they do is marketing to the public. The idea of public servant or public service, that's gone by the wayside a long time ago, because when people got into office, they took advantage of their position, and little by little, it all just became infected. It's a way of life now. So want to learn more about this? Watch those episodes, House of Cards and many other things on Netflix. These are good documentaries. Show you what's really going on if people don't understand this. It's very real. And so again, when everything is poisoned, where is it that there's something good from it? Again, starting a new position. So that's all an act. And whatever they recite or whatever, well, we already know this. They're going nowhere. They're all reptilians, and they've made their choice, and it's fine. It's all fine. They have their dimensions that they will go into, and they will, they will live with their dementia, etc. They've made their choices, and they will come back in worse body types. They will be the end result of what they've decided, and they'll come back disfigured because they've disfigured others. That's their choice. And again, the sun is shining. As the sun shines, it's not concerned. It shines on everyone, and so does all life. And so, again, it's about recognition, recognizing what's real, not trying to fix all this nonsense, because these are paid actors, and heck, they're paid very well. So again, it's everybody has their price, it seems. So, but they're also responsible. Just like when Marjorie went over, she's responsible for a lot of others, because she did the deal too. They all made deals, and it's fine. So you see what's going on. So this should motivate you to better figure out what is real and what makes sense. But that's a real challenge, but I like the challenge. It's kind of like Mission Impossible. It's almost impossible in this world to do anything that does make sense, but each person decides if they will or not. Let's go ahead, Charles.
Okay. Okay, Duane. We'll dive now into food and drinks. There's a certain intricate relationship between what we eat and drink and our ultimate realization and perception of the reality life is. And this is mediated through our DNA. It is postulated that we aren't functioning at our full capacity because of some dormant DNA, and that if those DNA strands were all activated, each individual will immediately become aware of the other dimensions and the other dimensions of life, and ultimately realize his true purpose in this life. So what I want to ask is, does the new song somehow activate our dormant DNA? And what do you say about what seems to be amping our awareness through physical means, maybe through the food and drink that we eat, that contributes to DNA integrity? So what do you say about this?
Okay, so because we have the DNA idea today, I don't remember if the Indians had that or not. I don't think they did. They don't refer to DNA. All right, so what does that mean? Distinct nonsense available? What does that mean? So again, let's look at it like this. Okay, so a person that has a car, and they can get that car, just running just perfectly tuned. Everything is, it's all polished and whatever. Okay. Then all of a sudden, something happens to the car. It blows up or something like that. Well, again, whether the car's in good shape or whether it's in bad shape, and you as the owner standing there taking a look at it, or it's not in good shape now. All right. Is there a difference? See? So again, when you're referring to DNA and all these possibilities, and yes, things can be opened up and people can accordingly with whatever, maybe even on drugs, whatever, see the real life is. But the big difference is recognizing it. That's the difference. And so again, people are walking around in this world, and most people don't even recognize what the sun is demonstrating as an idea, as a first step. I'm not saying that's the only first step, but the reality is that your real awareness is not your DNA. That is in creation. And so whether a person is healthy physically or not or whatever, it has nothing to do with their real awareness. People can have autism, can have polio, all these diseases and whatever, and be on life support system. But it's really about their real awareness, and the body is just serving as something. So what is the real awareness doing? So within the individual, and this is one thing they really can't see, is that they may be able to see what the individual is dreaming, but the real individual, the real awareness cannot see that, and what that individual is deciding within themselves, even when they're in a coma, you see. So that becomes the real side of things, as opposed to the world of appearances. Yes, for us to have experience here the way we'd like it to be, let's just say that, yeah, it's better to have a better body, but that's all it is. I grew up as I would say a surfer because I started very young, 14, 15 years old. And so I've seen the surfing phenomena and evolution taking place, etc. And so surfing's not important to me like it was. I was living the idea of surfing, and it's just something that we do. Whether I do it or not, it's not important. I like to do it, but again, my real awareness I see because that's everything. So this is just something that we relate to. So kind of like DNA, it's the same thing. This is just something that's constantly promoted because this is a business world. Everything here is basically marketing in some way, and we're doing the same thing. We're simply again, I'm using the system, and at the same time creating a new position to relate to that makes a little more sense, but in relationship to the world, it looks basically the same, which I understand because I'm using the same words and along the same lines of ideas, and it's up to the individual to get to that point where they recognize what is really being said here. So when it comes to DNA and all this scientific stuff, it's all very interesting. But again, I don't see the birds. They don't seem to be interested in it at all. And they're doing fine, except when they're poisoned or radiated by HARP, then they're not doing fine, but they'll just come back in new bodies. But, the cats and the birds and the squirrels, I don't see them studying or even interested in what the heck DNA is, you see? So again, it's choice. It's all choice. So I'd rather share on Facebook, which I do all the time now because of all our new images that Ava and I constantly make and create. It's a lot of fun. And then see what happens from that. But we're doing our part, like the sun shining. We're sharing with the whole of life according to the references that we've created for the all is. I see how the all is sees and making everything available and possible where everybody else is really trying to suppress it. They don't want people to see the true reality. They just want to see, they want agreement to being controlled. That becomes the difference. And they make it look really good. And I would say our images are a lot better than anybody's, but, it's a matter of choice. But you decide, Charles. It all sounds good, though, doesn't it, in those commercials? They do those commercials so well when it talks about health products and DNA and all this stuff. And, I get caught up in it a little bit too myself. I play with it, but then I just go back to the basics, salad, rice and beans and avocado, make my own chocolate bars, whatever. So, the marketing is interesting. I look for ways to, get people's attention through it. But the DNA factor or the healthy body or whatever, it's really not about that. It's a lot better. So, and it's not possible for everybody to take vitamins and have a good DNA and all these things, especially with us all being radiated with microwaves and et cetera. And it's getting worse, and air pollution, et cetera. So, they market these things to have these things, but at the same time, purposely destroying everybody's environment so they can't have it. Yeah, so that's the real challenge is, so where do you go? I would say, wake up and learn about your real awareness and establish yourself there and learn to see from that position and learn to be and do from that position. That makes sense.
Wow, Jen, that was a good breather. I think all the health pushers will scream at you